In order to be a true scientific theory, creationism would have to be falsifiable and have predictive power.
Eric, what are you doing? Sorry for those not in the know, this is Eric Hovind, crotch spawn of the infamous creationist Kent. My entire channel is made entirely of terrifyingly creepy smiling thumbnails. Hovind. And amazingly, Eric is actually worse at this than him. But anyway, why are you doing this? Because we all know the answer is, it can't do that because it isn't scientific. And your little, what is this supposed to be, a skit? Well, it just makes you sound really silly. And that's my job.
Because it has neither, it must be thrown out of the scientific community.
Correct. Are we done now? Or are you going to make the case for why that is better than anyone actually arguing against it ever could? Don't answer that. We all know what's going to happen next. This video only just started and I haven't even suffered yet. So clearly, we have a ways to go. No, we're not doing intros. Nothing beats the Way of the Master's Super Ultra 90s Disco Edition intro anyway. So literally, no point even trying.
Welcome to questions@creationtoday.org. I'm Eric Hovind. Mateo writes in and asks,
Someone's asked you a question, eh? Uh-oh. Here's hoping that it's not something that you aren't going to be able to adequately answer and are just going to have to reframe basically all of reality in order to sound like you answered it when you really didn't. But of course, he's a creationist and they would never do that. No.
YEC, which means Young Earth Creationism.
I think we can come up with a better use for that acronym than that still accurately describes Young Earth Creationism. Useless Education Club. Okay, I know, but you try finding a good word for that starts with Y. It's very difficult, especially when you have the affliction of being incredibly lazy like me. It's a hard life, man.
Needs to be falsifiable and have predictive powers in order to have any use as a scientific theory.
Absolutely. Now, how exactly are you going to achieve that? For the life of me, I don't think you can. I mean, its explanation is God did it, and its predictive power is basically zero. I only say basically because I imagine there are situations that just happen to appear to line up with it, but again, can't actually think of it. And compared to the thing it's attempting to go up against, it's got the predictive power of a psychic whose shop was closed due to unforeseen circumstances. We all know they didn't see that one coming.
What predictions does the YEC model make that the standard model doesn't make? And how can we test them?
That's an oddly worded question because they absolutely do make predictions. The real model makes predictions and your one makes predictions. It's just that the things that creationism predicts are universally, demonstrably not true. Like even its basic premise, God done did the world about 6,000 years ago, friggin' tree ring dating shows that to be absolute nonsense. So just because they can make predictions, in a sense, the point is that the predictions have to, actually be right and not complete and total gibber speak.
What possible piece of evidence would falsify YEC?
God, can't imagine. I mean, if you take out the God bit, it's already been done. But unfortunately, he's kind of key because anything that would make the whole idea be like, no, that's bollocks, you just spread your hands and say, but magic though, and then that doesn't count anymore. That's why it's unfalsifiable, and that's why it's completely unscientific. Let's see if Eric catches on.
Well, Mateo, thanks for asking. Here's your answer. And for everyone else hearing, I want to know if you agree or disagree in the comments.
How about no? I'll disagree right here, right now. No need for me to help out your engagement like that, you sneaky little doodad. Let me know in my comments if you think he's a sneaky engagement increasing doodad. No, it's not hypocrisy when I do it. In fact, saying that makes it double not hypocrisy, so I win.
But please, hear me out on this first, okay? It is important to note that YEC, Young Earth Creation, is not merely a scientific model.
You heard it here first, folks. Young Earth Creationism is not a scientific model. No, I don't care that he said merely, because it's not even merely not a scientific model. It absolutely is not a scientific model. It's absolute categorical horseshit. That's what it is.
But rather, much like the evolutionary dogma or evolutionism, is a historical model.
That is fucking bollocks. Evolution is a fact, a thing that happens and can be shown to happen in lots of ways. And the evolution model, aka the theory of evolution, is the thing that humans have created in order to accurately describe that fact. What you've done here is, I don't even know what to call it other than f***ing bollocks. Historical model is, well, just a thing you made up that has absolutely nothing to do with evolution. But you know what? I'm a nice guy and I'm gonna meet you halfway. We can say that young Earth creationism is a historical model, aka completely made up nonsense. You're welcome.
It intends to tell us about the past.
Yuck, maybe, but I am going to ignore your evolutionism or any other made-up terms you use and just call it what you are actually trying to poison the well on, evolution. Evolution tells us about the past, but also the present and the future. That's why calling it historical anything is completely nonsensical. That's like saying that music is about the past because records are an old, obsolete format. Yes, they are. Fight me. If you want your music to sound like shit, just play an MP3 of vinyl pops over it. It's basically identical. Yes, I am willing to die on this hill. I don't give a fuck. Sorry, but saying that this old thing is old, therefore music, is about just that. When evolution is more than just the study of fossils, for example. In fact, that's where the predictive power comes in. You can use evolutionary ideas to make accurate predictions about reality. Oh, holy shit, I've just realised you're totally going to admit that creationism doesn't have any predictive utility, aren't you?
And just like evolutionism, it doesn't give us scientific principles which are intended to be applied to medicine and technology.
Look at you, being half right again. Yes, yuck, doesn't have any scientific capabilities whatsoever. Good, we agree. But the other half, I don't know. Are you lying or are you dumber than a pile of bricks standing on a shelf made out of dumbass? Because that's not even remotely true. In fact, evolution is incredibly important to medical studies to the point where we would be decades behind where we are now in terms of medical progress if it wasn't for our understanding and use of evolution in the field. And to say otherwise is to again be either a duplicitous little shit or so completely ignorant of science, it's a wonder how you think you should even try to talk about it in any way, shape or form.
Creation and the events in Genesis are the events in the past which cannot be directly observed or tested.
Or even indirectly. Or even in any way inferred by the things we see in reality. In fact, there is literally nothing but a few scribbly boys written by random ancient dudes. However, as we know, they couldn't possibly have made it up, because, as we all know, no one has ever written a thing that isn't true, because we live in the film universe of the invention of lying. Oh wait, no, that's a story and not how anything works. I forgotted.
Today, just as Big Bang cosmology and evolutionism are about events in the past which cannot be observed or tested today.
Except they can, and hey, even if they couldn't, let's just roll with your bullshit. Okay, fine, so evolutionism, we have the things that we know happen and we check to see everything back in history that we have records of are correct and match up to what we see and understand the workings of today. And we trace those ideas back, and that's, under your nonsense, how we got to the Big Bang. Seems pretty reasonable. Your thing is, we have what we see today, and some books that say God did it. That's it. Nothing else. No things that even accurately depict recent-ish events. I don't know about you, but one of those is still infinitely more convincing than the other. Just saying.
That said, it is possible to examine both of these historical models using modern science.
Right, again, let's just ignore the historical model, Garbo, and say yes, of course they can be examined with science, everything can, but the point is that while if something in evolution hits a brick wall and is proven by the reals to be the false, we go, okay, that bit's not true, let's put it aside and figure out how it actually works. But in your model, when we hit something that reality says is not true, like that God made the Earth 6,000 years ago, well, he can do it, and you can't prove he can. Hashtag checkmate science. That's a big part of what makes it unfalsifiable. If you never put any of your ideas aside because they don't make sense, you aren't doing science.
Just as a cold case can be solved using existing evidence, even though the crime can't be observed today.
Right. But we are comparing the crimes of a humans who was shot by another humans and they left plenty of evidence behind, compared to the magic fairy prince destroyed the walls of Flimgomgaboy and usurped the Custard Palace's throne, murdering King Donut Head with his rainbow sword. And yes, that's a sword made out of actual rainbows and not coloured for them. And all you have to prove that this happened is, frankly, a just frickin' weird children's storybook. They just aren't in the same league, mate.
For instance, evolutionism demands that DNA and the first cells created themselves.
No, it doesn't. What are you even talking about? The first cells may have formed naturally, but that's not the same thing as them making themselves. That's like saying sand makes itself. No, the natural processes of erosion make sand, and in the same way, it's likely that some natural process caused cells to form, in whatever way that happened. In science, we base ideas that we have on things that we observe. So cells being made from natural processes is likely because things are made by natural processes all the time. Remind me the last time you saw a god come down and make some sand or a river or whatever. Oh, that's right. That doesn't happen.
With no designer. Whereas creation says all of life was made by God.
Okay then, which part of that is falsifiable exactly? When you have an inbuilt, well, God moves in mysterious ways, get out of jail free card, that basically means that no amount of evidence or rational discourse can dissuade someone hard-headed enough out of that position. Oh look, we have one right here. How convenient to my point.
The predictions of evolutionism would be that it is possible, given the right conditions, that DNA could write itself.
No, it doesn't. And that's a lie. Because even if you believe that to be true, that's just coming from nowhere. And you're making a direct claim about what the science, and it is the science, says about that. And what you're saying is just not true, and you couldn't possibly have found that in any credible scientific resource. DNA forming spontaneously is something that you can find, but it doesn't mean the same thing. And you know it doesn't mean the same thing, so you can't possibly actually use things scientists have said. I wonder why that might be.
And the first living cell could come together by chance and go from dead matter to a living, self-replicating cell.
Yes, that's actually fairly accurate. Well done. Slow clap and a gold star for you. Although, that by chance thing is a bit misleading. Because while it was technically by chance, it will have almost certainly been the kind of by chance that you would have of rolling a 6, whatever number of times in a row. The chances of having multiple 6s in a row gets up to some pretty astronomically high numbers, but those rolls were happening constantly all over the planet over and over and over again. So it's basically guaranteed under those circumstances, and because it's the first life, there's no worries about whatever getting immediately eaten by whatever, which is probably why, at least on this planet, it won't happen again. But nice empty humanless planets, it's probably happening right now, and even if it doesn't that just sound great?
Biblical creation would predict that life would show signs of intelligent design. It was created by God.
Oh, well, there you go. Creationism debunked. Thanks, Eric. I knew you could do it. Unless you have the label attached to the back of your head that says Original Design, God Inc., Do Not Steal, Dry Clean Only, Made in China. Where if you do, maybe you have a point. But no, there's actually nothing in any biology that suggests intelligent design. I mean, just take humans, for instance. And this isn't even just me harping on about how much they suck. Their engineers know they suck too, because there's a famous adage: if humans were designed, that designer should be fired. Into the sun, presumably, because he did such a bad job, he was clearly a humans, and humans should be fired into the sun by default. That may have turned into anti-humans creed. Oops. I'm not sorry.
Irreducible complexity, created in fully formed and functioning ways, and have information.
I hear that a lot, but what does irreducible complexity actually mean? Ahem. Irreducible complexity is the argument that certain biological systems cannot have evolved by successive small modifications to pre-existing functional systems through natural selection, because no less complex system would function. Oh, right. That's f***ing dumb. I mean, there are all sorts of functional, less complex systems, and if you mean that, oh, well, when something is reduced down to a certain level of complexity, it doesn't do the thing anymore. Well, yeah, no shit, the functions of things change through evolution. That's like a part of it. Seriously, it's like you people know nothing about evolution. Oh, right, yeah.
A pre-programmed set of instructions given by the creator so that it could work.
Or it's not that, and if it was, you could actually prove it instead of just making stuff up and shitting on evolution because you clearly don't know anything about it. But where's the fun in that? No, this way, you get to have an invisible best friend who tells you how special you are all of the time. Otherwise, you'll have to come to terms with the fact that you really, really, really are not.
Now, which model's predictions fit the observations and the facts that we know today?
Evolution, even by your own stupid, misrepresentative standards, it's still based on things we observe. The second one involves someone who we cannot observe doing things we can't prove they did. Jesus, even with your own rigged game, you're still a loser, Eric. No wonder Daddy's favourite is Matt Powell. Burn.
Consider the simplest cell you can imagine.
Okay, right, I have it. It's the one single brain cell inside your head. Because even though you have as many as one, it's still the most simplistic of all the brain cells in the world. Honestly, that really does explain a few things, doesn't it?
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstar Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the